This happened just a couple of months ago, but it still plays on a loop in my head like a broken VHS tape. I just started college now, trying to focus, trying to be normal. But back then, I was still in high school, living in the outskirts of Chicago. My friends and I weren't exactly the sports team or the theater kids. We were something else entirely. Urban explorers. We hunted places that felt like time had forgotten them. Abandoned factories, decaying subway tunnels, empty rooftops with a view of nothing but shadows. The more dangerous and off-limits it was, the more we wanted in. There were five of us. Me, Maya, Jordan, Eli, and Cass. Each one of us had a role. Maya was the planner, the brain behind every mission. Jordan was the guy who could pick any lock in under a minute. Eli had this beat-up DSLR camera always hanging from his neck. And Cass? She didn't say much, but when she did, we all listened. Every weekend was like our own secret horror film. We weren't thrill seekers, not exactly. It was more like obsession, a need to find out what the city tried to bury. And one day, we stumbled across a legend that didn't sound like the others. It was an old forum post, grainy, cryptic, about something called Floor B7, deep under the Monroe Industrial Complex. It wasn't on any public blueprints. Some said it used to be a medical testing level. Others whispered it was part of a Cold War experiment. But everyone who talked about it said the same thing. If you find it, don't go in. Don't even knock. So, naturally, we had to. Maya was the one who actually found it. She had been digging through old server archives using a VPN and a fake university login she bought from some sketchy Discord. One night, she messaged all of us in the group chat. Maya, "Guy, I think I found B7. Attached was a low-resolution scan of a blueprint. It looked legit. Yellowed paper, typed labels, faded ink, and buried deep within the sub-basement layers of the Monroe Industrial Complex was something odd. There it was. Level B7. Restricted access. Classified. No staircase shown. No elevator. Just a long vertical shaft labeled M9 lift and a narrow line that led to a sealed chamber marked Cryo Bioholding. Do not unlock. In E. All caps. That was it. We couldn't believe it. The Monroe complex had been shut down since the early 90s after a chemical fire took out the West Wing. People said it was just bad wiring. Others said the fire was a cover-up. Either way, it was completely fenced off, half collapsed, and sitting like a skeleton in the middle of an industrial graveyard. The next day, we went there. No hesitation. We parked 2 blocks away and snuck through a torn section of the south. Fence, backpacks full of flashlights, gloves, crowbars, and water. The air smelled like rust and dust, and something else. Something spoiled. We found the main elevator shaft within minutes. The doors were warped open and the car itself was long gone. Just a deep black void below, with old maintenance ladders bolted to the wall. On the far side of the shaft, barely visible behind some caution tape and broken scaffolding, was a steel hatch. Faintly etched into it were 2 letters, B7. No one spoke. We all just stared, and then we heard something move inside. We should have turned back. The moment Dylan forced that rusted steel hatch open, a blast of stale, icy air hit us like a wall. It smelled like mold, metal, and something that didn't belong, like rot that had been locked in a coffin for decades. We all had masks, but even through the filter, the stench was thick enough to taste. A narrow steel staircase led down, spiraling tightly along a shaft that disappeared into pitch black darkness. No lights, no rails, just rusted steps and shadows. No way this is up to code, Maya whispered, half joking, but her voice echoed in a weird, delayed way, like the sound had to travel further than it should. We started the descent. Our flashlights cut through the dark in flickers. Dust danced in the beams like snow. The walls were lined with old wires, some snapped and dangling like vines. Every creak of the steps sounded like a scream. Halfway down, Dylan's foot slipped and he grabbed the railing, only for it to crumble in his hand. We froze. Then we heard it. A thud from below, like something heavy had just landed or had been waiting. Probably debris, Ash said, trying to be rational. But I saw her hand trembling. After what felt like a full hour, we reached the bottom. The staircase ended at a circular blast door covered in frost, sealed tight with a mechanical lock. Beside it, a panel that still had faint power, a red light, blinking slowly. Maya looked at us, eyes wide. If there's still power down here, she whispered, then something else might still be running. And that's when the red light turned green. When that red light turned green, none of us moved. We just stood there, flashlights trembling in our hands, staring at the mechanical lock as it hissed. The sound was slow, drawn out, metal groaning like it hadn't moved in decades. Then, clunk. The door unsealed with a shudder. We didn't press anything, Dylan muttered. His voice was thin, barely above a whisper. Maybe it sensed us, Ash offered, but no one believed that. The door creaked open an inch. Cold air spilled out like smoke. My skin crawled. Something inside me screamed, "Don't go in," but we'd come this far. Dylan pulled it open the rest of the way. Inside was a hallway, concrete walls, ceiling pipes, broken fluorescent light still flickering with sickly white-blue glow. The floor was wet, not just with water, but streaked with something darker. Blood? Maya said, not really asking. We kept walking, slowly. The further we went, the more we noticed that nothing was decayed the way it should have been. There were signs of activity, scratches on the walls, disturbed dust, broken cables that looked ripped, not snapped. Then we saw the handprints, dozens of them, all down the hallway. Some small like children's hands, others far too large, each one smeared downward as if whoever left them was dragged. Then our flashlights flickered, one by one. "No," Dylan said, turning back, but the hallway behind us was no longer. Empty. Something stood at the far end, just a silhouette, tall, still, watching, and then it took a step toward us. The silhouette at the end of the hallway didn't move like a person. It twitched, just slightly, like a frame skipping in a corrupted video. "Do you see that?" Maya whispered, clutching my sleeve. I blinked. The hallway lights flickered. Again, and now it was closer. Still standing, still silent. "Don't blink," Ash said, trembling. But our flashlights were dying, and every pulse of darkness made it jump forward a few feet. "Run!" Dylan yelled. We sprinted down the hall, slipping on the wet concrete. Pipes overhead rattled like something was crawling inside them. I swear I heard breathing, but it wasn't ours. Then the lights went out completely. In the pitch black, we could hear it walking. Not running, not rushing, just slow, heavy steps behind us. I turned on my phone flashlight, its weak glow barely, cutting through the dark. And that's when I saw it. Something moved at the edge of the light. Not human. Wrong proportions. Its arms were too long. Its head tilted sideways like it was broken at the neck. It stopped when I pointed the light at it. "It only moves in the dark," I whispered. "Like those statues in that Doctor Who show," Maya said, almost laughing. "But it wasn't funny." "Don't look away," I said. But Dylan had already rounded the corner. We heard him scream. A loud crack. By the time we got there, all we found was his flashlight, smashed, still flickering, and a blood trail leading into a side tunnel we didn't remember passing before. "He's gone," Ash said, but we couldn't leave. Not yet. Something deeper was calling us in. We followed the blood trail. We knew we shouldn't, but leaving Dylan behind wasn't an option, even if our guts told us it was already too late. The tunnel it led to wasn't on the blueprints Charles had printed earlier. This part of the underground didn't exist, at least not officially. "Guys, this wasn't carved by machines," Ash muttered, running his hand along the wall. "These grooves, they're like claw marks." Maya picked up something near the edge of the trail, a half-torn shirt. Dylan's, but it wasn't just torn. It was melted at the edges, like it had been burned by acid or something worse. The air changed as we moved deeper. It was heavy, humid, almost breathing, and then we saw them. Dozens of bones, some small, animal, but others unmistakably human. A rib cage cracked in half, a shoe still attached to a foot, and in the center, a crude altar made of rusted rebar, wire, and old mining tools. "What the hell is this?" Maya whispered. A sound, not scraping this time, but whispering. Hundreds of overlapping voices all around us. Then Charles found something half buried in the dirt, a camcorder. He flipped it on. Footage played, grainy, flickering. A man standing exactly where we were now. He was crying. "If you're watching this, don't turn off the light. It moves when it's dark. It moves when you're not looking." And then the footage cut to black and screaming. Behind us, we heard a deep inhale, like something had just noticed us. Our flashlights flickered, and then one of them went out. "The flashlight died! Run!" Charles yelled, and that was all it took. We turned and sprinted back through the tunnel, the narrow beams of our remaining lights bouncing wildly off the walls. Behind us, the darkness hissed, clicked, and then something scraped, louder than before. A second light flickered. "Don't stop! Don't stop!" I shouted, though I could barely hear my own voice over the blood pounding in my ears. Maya stumbled. I grabbed her arm. Something brushed my back, cold, wet, and fast. We bolted down the incline toward the main tunnel. We could see the faint glow of the shaft's entrance, just a pinprick of light far, far away. That's when Ash screamed. We spun. His flashlight had fallen. He was just standing there, frozen, staring behind us. "It's right there," he whispered. "Don't look away," Maya screamed. "But we had to move. Ash, come on." "It's watching us," he whispered. "It's in the walls." He blinked just once, and then he was gone. Gone. No scream, no drag, just gone. We didn't stop running. We couldn't. When we finally burst out of the shaft, the sun had started to rise, casting long shadows across the desert floor. We didn't stop. We climbed into the car, slammed the doors, and floored it. None of us looked back. No one said a word until we were back on paved road. 3 went in, 2 came out, and later that night, my phone buzzed. A message request from an account with no profile. Photo. Just 2 words. "You blinked." We drove in silence. The desert, once hot and dry, now felt cold and endless. I couldn't stop replaying the sound of that scream, the scraping, the silence that followed. James kept his eyes glued to the road. Charles was staring at the map on his phone, not saying a word. I glanced at my foot. It had stopped bleeding, but it throbbed with every heartbeat. When we finally hit pavement, we let out a collective breath. The nearest hospital was an hour out, but I barely made it through the doors before blacking out. I needed a tetanus shot, stitches, and they pulled out over a dozen splinters. For a while, I could barely walk, but it wasn't the pain that haunted me. It was the feeling that we weren't supposed to leave. A few days later, James mentioned he lost his wallet just near the entrance, not deep inside. Against our better judgment, we went back. The area looked different, like it had aged 100 years in a week. The boards were rotting. The entrance was darker. We never found the wallet, but we did find my shoe. A few feet from the mine, it had bite marks, deep, human-sized, but not human, jagged, inhuman, like a jaw not built for chewing, built for shredding. There were still bits of something stuck in the fabric, gray and brittle. We didn't stay long. Sound cue, low thud. Wind fades to silence. Charles deleted the map pin. James changed his number. And me? I haven't slept through the night since.